And now, in the darkest hours of the night,
ladies and gentlemen, Bruce Collins.
You ready?
Chad Miles.
Let's go! Yeah! For those of you that want to know what we're all about, it's like this, y'all.
The new Theater of the Mind. The Bruce Collins Show. With the Baron of Broadcasting.
Welcome back to the Bruce Collins Show. We're very glad to have you join us. Tonight we'll talk good health with the Juice Lady, Cherie Calbom, and we'll explore the current situation with Native Americans in the U.S. with guest Lisa Morris. The Bruce Collins Show airs every Thursday night at 10 p.m. on WWPR 1490 AM. You can also catch the show on Fridays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time online at ipbn-fm.com. That's ipbn-fm.com. Please tell your friends about the Bruce Collins Show, and you can join us on Facebook at the Bruce Collins Show page. If you would like to contact us, you can email us at bruce_collins_show@aol.com. Our website is thebrucecollinsshow.com. Again, that's thebrucecollinsshow.com. The Bruce Collins Show also has a YouTube channel. Visit YouTube, search for the Bruce Collins Show channel, subscribe, and catch all the latest shows on YouTube. And now let me introduce my co-host, Chad Miles. Chad is a former congressional candidate in Michigan and a military veteran, and is the founder and webmaster at Conspiria.net and ZippyCheese.com. You can find out more information about Chad at ChadMiles.com. He is radio's lethal weapon, Chad Miles. Welcome back to the program, Chad.
Hey, Bruce. Lovely weather we're having, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it is. Well, we have an exciting show this week, Chad.
Hey, speaking of exciting, how is Social Media Jones doing with that commercial for the show?
The last communication I got from Social Media Jones, said that he was busy exercising with a rock band.
Exercising with a rock band?
Yeah, he said he was working out the kinks.
So he's almost done with the commercial.
I don't think so. You have to understand, Chad, that a masterpiece takes time. Like Michelob, chiseling away until he lost enough of his marbles to hatch King David.
Michelob? No, you mean Michelangelo.
Chad, I too was thinking of the greatest kung fu tortoise in the history of turtle kind.
Okay, I'm getting nowhere with this conversation.
I noticed that, but I didn't want to embarrass you.
More like harass me.
Now, as you know, Chad, we've been having problems with Jeckleberry Sr. talking to his son. But I finally hear he's making progress.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, it is. I believe we have Jeckleberry Sr. on the line right now to confirm this. Jeckleberry?
Huh?
Jeckleberry.
What?
This is Bruce Collins.
Bruce Collins? No, I'm Jeckleberry Collins.
No, you're not.
I'm not? You mean to say I'm Bruce Collins now? Make up your mind.
No, you're Jeckleberry.
What?
Dupont.
Huh?
Senior.
I am a senior, but I can still run laps around you, Sonny.
I didn't say anything about your age.
What?
I said I didn't say anything.
Well, you sure are saying a lot for not saying anything.
Bruce, let me step in for a minute. Hey, Jeckleberry, I understand you're building an addition to your house.
That's right.
Bruce tells me that this new wing of your house is to house Jeckleberry Jr. during his psychiatric counseling.
I've changed my mind about that.
You have?
Yes, I've decided that my son is perfectly sane, and together Colin and I are building the Collins Family Museum at our home.
Now, wait just a minute.
Hey, did you get my contribution, Jeckleberry?
Yes, I did. Thank you very much, Chad.
So you're encouraging these two idiots, Chad?
Hey, Bruce, be nice. You're talking to a guest. So, Jeckleberry, tell us what is going to be at the Collins Family Museum.
Well, we've got lots of interesting memorabilia of Collins from the past. There will even be a wing of the Museum for the Baron of Broadcasting.
Oh, really? Well, it better be tasteful.
Well, we have a few unmentionables we have collected.
I noticed I was missing some underwear. Did you break into my house?
We also have the elongated skull of Bruce Collins.
Well, that's impossible. You're talking to my skull right now.
We have a second skull, too.
Oh, really? Well, whose skull is that one?
It's the skull of Bruce Collins as a child. We figured two heads are better than one.
Something isn't adding up here.
I totally agree, Chad. It sounds suspicious.
Do you have a Collins Family Museum gift shop?
Check.
No. Collins Family Snack Bar?
Check.
Well, how in the world are you paying for all this?
Check.
Check? Whose check?
Hey, Bruce, remember when I said I had made a contribution? Well, I sent one of your blank checks.
Well, thank goodness there weren't any numbers written on it.
There's only one thing missing from the Baron of Broadcasting wing of the Collins Family Museum.
By the way, that wing must be a turkey.
Quiet, Chad. What is missing from my wing, Jeckleberry?
Your body.
My body? But I'm alive.
Yes, that's the problem. We'd have to feed you every day from the snack bar.
Gross. I'm not going to hang out at a museum all day.
Yeah, because you're so productive elsewhere.
We have a special place to put Bruce's body in that wing of the museum.
Oh, yeah? Where?
Over with the old fossils.
Hey, that wasn't nice.
What?
Oh, sure, now you can't hear.
Sounds like everything is going great over at the Dupont house, Bruce.
No, it sounds like I'm going to have to figure out how to get Senior on the same page again and get his son the help he needs.
Huh?
And up next, we talk to the Juice Lady about healthy living, and we talk about the plight of Native American children with Lisa Morris in a moment.
How much of a geek are you? No, seriously, do you think you're a Star Wars expert? Well, take the hardest Star Wars quiz in the world and find out. Go to zippycheese.com and see how well you know the Star Wars movies. There's a quiz for the original trilogy, or, if you dare, take the quiz for the prequel trilogy. What's the name of the creature in the trash compactor in Episode 4? What was the name of the curator of the Jedi Archives in Episode 2? Go to zippycheese.com, take the quiz, and share with your friends. There's also a Marvel comic book quiz. Do you know obscure Marvel comic book characters? We'll find out today. That's zippycheese.com.
And joining us this week is Cherie Calbom, also known as the Juice Lady. Cherie is the author of 31 books, including the bestseller Juicing for Life, with 2 million books sold in the U.S. and published around the world in 23 countries. And now there's a Spanish edition. Other best-selling books by Cherie include The Juice Lady's Anti-Inflammation Diet, The Juice Lady's Remedies for Thyroid Disorder, The Juice Lady's Guide to Juicing for Health, Revised Edition, The Ultimate Smoothie Book, The Complete Cancer Cleanse, The Juice Lady's Turbo Diet, and her latest book, The Juice Lady Sugar Knockout, Detox for Less Weight, Kill Cravings, and Prevent Disease. Cherie's books have been featured in 4 cover stories for Women's World magazine. She has also had feature stories in USA Today, The New York Post, First for Women, Charisma Magazine, Quick and Simple, Vogue, Marie Claire, Elle, Newsweek, New Body, Fitness, McCall, Shape, Women's Sports and Fitness, Oxygen, and Natural Health. Very impressive. Cherie has appeared on Fox Morning News with Edie Hill and Chicago Fox News. She's also appeared in 7 infomercials, including the Juice Lady infomercial, the Juice Man infomercials, and has co-hosted 3 George Foreman Grill infomercials with George and the Lean, Mean, Fat Reducing Grilling Machine. Again, we're going to talk about Cherie's new book this week, The Juice Lady Sugar Knockout, Detox to Lose Weight, Kill Cravings, and Prevent Disease. Cherie's website is juiceladysherry.com, and again, I'll spell her first name, Cherie, juiceladysherry.com. Cherie Calbom, welcome to the Bruce Collins Show.
Hi, Bruce, and it's great to be with you this evening.
Well, it's great to have you on. Now, before we talk about your new book, The Juice Lady Sugar Knockout, I have to know, how did you become the Juice Lady?
Funny you should ask, eh? Years ago, I got started juicing when I was really sick. Chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. I had a very bad case of it. I couldn't work any longer and had to move back home and sleep 12 hours a day, drag myself around, and feel like I had the flu all the time. It was really a nasty existence, and I thought, this is ridiculous. No doctor knew how to help me. I had to help myself. So I started going to different health food stores and talking with people and realized I had a horrible diet. I didn't like vegetables, and I liked junk food and fast food and too many sweets. I was very sugar addicted. So I changed everything, bought a juicer, started juicing, did a 5-day juice fast to kick it off, and juiced all summer long and ate a perfect diet, lots of vegetables, cured myself in 3 months.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, that was just really a fabulous cure. I felt just wonderful. And I called it a cure. And I slowly started going back to some of my old ways, and some of my old symptoms started coming back. And that really scared me. So I thought, this is not a cure, this is a way of life. I've got to live like this on a really good diet and juicing all the time. And so I was so impressed with what had happened for me, I decided to go back to school and get my Master's of Science degree in Whole Foods Nutrition from Bastyr University. And while I was in that program, the Juice Man Company came to my university looking for a couple of students to write a booklet that went in the Juice Man juicer. And I got chosen and discovered that they were doing some seminars around the country. Excuse me. So on the weekends, I would fly out and do juice seminars. Quickly became a juice lady.
Your latest book is The Juice Lady Sugar Knockout. How toxic is sugar?
It's a hot topic in the news right now. A lot of researchers have been looking at sugar and doing all sorts of tests. They just keep coming out on the news about the addictive qualities and toxic qualities of sugar, and showing that sugar is as addictive as cocaine or heroin. There's the Oreo cookie study, the ice cream study, the just plain old sugar studies, and it just showing over and over and over again that sugar is very toxic and very, very addictive.
So as you just said, it's more than a sweet tooth when you crave sugar.
It is for a lot of people. I can tell you from my own research, which is limited, but people who take my sugar addiction quiz, show up about 2/3 of them being addicted to sugar based on the questions that they answer. And that kind of parallels what other researchers have said. About 2/3 of our nation seems to be addicted to sugar. There are people that we all know that do not have a sweet tooth. They do not like sweets. Their thing is salt or some other savory flavor, but the majority of the people are sweet tooth people, and they have sugar addictions, most of them. when you can't leave the stuff alone, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in one of your chapters, you list 11 good reasons to get sugar out of our diets. Can you touch on that?
Oh, I would love to, because sugar is linked to so many things. I just want to mention quickly, new studies have been out this year, that more than one study linking sugars with heart disease, with cancer, and with diabetes, and more, obesity, of course. And so in addition to that, linked to inflammation, inflammation is at the root of every ailment there is. Anything you could name that could go wrong, there's inflammation involved somewhere in that process. And it's also linked with high cholesterol. Of course, I just talked about the sugar studies and heart disease, but this is directly linked with high cholesterol. So many, many people in our nation are on cholesterol-lowering drugs, and I am sure that their doctors have not told them they need to get off sugar. For a long time, doctors were saying, well, you've got to get off fat, you know. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't swim or fly, don't eat it. And that was the motto for a long time, but it's so much more than that. And now they're showing it's sugar that is even more important. That people should get that either below 10% or completely out of their diet. And then, in addition, ADD, hyperactivity, autism, all of those conditions affecting so many, many, many children right now. Mm-hmm. And so many children placed on drugs like Ritalin when actually they should be taken off sugar and see if they don't calm down, if their behavior doesn't improve, if their mood doesn't improve, because there are studies who show that it does. When you get people off of that sugar, and then we know that sugar destroys our teeth, that is a no-brainer, and everybody knows that. Mm-hmm. But here's one that I bet a lot of people don't know. Sugar is involved with aging and wrinkles. Now, listen up. If I didn't get you on anything else, right, everybody just woke up. Yeah. Right? Wrinkles and sugar, and it's true. Sugar causes glycation in the body and produces what is called ages. A is capital A-G-E-S, small s. And it is a process where sugar binds to proteins or fats in the body and forms advanced glycation end product. That is what AGES stands for. And that is directly linked with wrinkles and other aspects of aging. And so, you know, a lot of us, we don't care so much about our liver, our heart, our kidneys, but talk about our skin and our face and our physique or our waistline. We listen up a whole lot more. Talk about, for women, our hair, our fingernails, our complexion, and we wake up. So sugar is directly implicated with aging. And then acid reflux. Here's another problem that plagues a huge number of people in our country. And for many people, there's a sugar aspect or a sugar link to that. And thyroid function. We often hear about other things with thyroid and rarely about sugar being linked to thyroid problems. There's so many people today that struggle with low thyroid, are on thyroid medication, and I'm sure have never heard that sugar could be involved and could be an aspect of that. And of course, I just mentioned cancer, but I want to bring it back to something from way back in the 1930s, and Otto Warburg, who won a Nobel Prize for sugar and his research on how it was linked to cancer. And now we've come full circle, and researchers once again are saying, in modern day language, sugar has been directly implicated with cancer, and then also with heart disease and artery problems. What is causing that irritation, that inflammation in the arteries, that place where cholesterol, plaque is going to form over it? Now they're looking at sugar being a direct link to that. And then it can affect our mood. So important to realize that when we eat sugar, it can actually put us in a bad mood. People think, oh, I'm going to have, something sweet, it'll cheer me up. And yeah, you maybe feel a little of that sugar high for a moment or two, and then you feel that downer. So all of those things and more. And diabetes, I mentioned that from the studies, so there's an extra one I throw in. All of those reasons, great reasons to get that sugar out of our diet, or at least down to 10% or below, which is the new guideline for health.
Yeah, amazing information. And of course, we can't cover everything in this book. That's why our listeners need to get a copy of this book, The Juice Lady Sugar Knockout. And I will say you can get a hard copy, but if you have a Kindle, you can also get an ebook through Amazon. Again, it's The Juice Lady Sugar Knockout by Cherie Calbom. And you can go to her website, juiceladysherry.com, for more information. Now, as you talked about, the mood is affected by sugar. Can that mood be serious depression? Can we link depression to sugar?
We can. Yes. There are studies that have. There are studies also that have linked depression to inflammation, and sugar is right at the top of the list, researchers' list, as being linked to inflammation. So we can look at it several ways and say, oh yeah, sugar is directly involved. I've had numerous people tell me after they've gotten on my program or seen what I was doing that they got off sugar and their depression lifted. It's just amazing the stories that I've heard from people since I've been doing this work. And what I say to everybody is, hey, give it a try. If you are seriously depressed, cut the sugar completely out of your diet and see how you do. You might notice pretty early on that depression is lifting. And, you know, linked with that is like brain activity, and foggy brain is something that people complain about a lot. So many people have said they got the sugar out of their diet and their foggy brain lifted, along with their mood going up. Their fog went away. That's pretty exciting too.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how does a person control their blood sugar level?
We want to have much more emphasis on good fats and protein than we do on sweets. And that's how we control our blood sugar. So the good carbs are the vegetables. We know that. Very rich in fiber, and so even the vegetables that would be higher in sugar, because of all the fiber, it's going to be fine. It's going to be very stabilizing. And then protein is your key, along with good fats. Those are your keys to stabilizing your blood sugar. And so we want good things like olive oil and coconut oil and avocados and maybe some nuts and seeds. That gives both fat and protein in our diet. And then we want to have plenty of vegetables. We want to drink plenty of water. All of those things really help to bring about stable blood sugar. And when we don't have that rolling blood sugar where it's spiking way up and dipping way low, then we are going to be much more stable. Our blood sugar isn't going to be rising, which can be pre-diabetic. If your blood sugar is continuing to go up, they tell you you're pre-diabetic. Or if you're diabetic, you can lower that by changing your diet. So many people I've worked with in the last few months have come back to say, wow, my blood sugar has gone back into a normal range and I no longer have to take medication. The doctor said as long as I continue doing what I'm doing on their good dietary program, they don't have to take any more medication.
Now, Cherie, how does sugar affect the immune system? And if someone purchases your book, The Juice Lady Sugar Knockout, can they learn how someone can reverse those effects?
Oh, absolutely. I've just got so much information packed into this book, into Sugar Knockout. But yes, you can really turn your immune system around by getting the sugar way down, really low, or completely out of your diet. And here's why you want to do that. We have found with science and with research that sugar will beat out vitamin C into your white blood cells and weaken them. And they are your first line of defense. That's your immune system. When it's weak, you are going to catch more stuff and colds and flus and all sorts of upper respiratory things that people deal with. You're going to be more susceptible to allergies. And, of course, more serious things like cancer, where you need a strong immune system to destroy the cancer cells. And when the sugar beats out vitamin C and weakens your immune cells, then you're not going to have your top line of defense defending your body. We want a vitamin C-rich diet. You want plenty of dark leafy green vegetables, which are wonderfully rich in vitamin C. And, of course, the vitamin C-rich fruit as well. And I love lemons and limes even over oranges because they have a lot less sugar. And here's the old misnomer. People think, oh, when I'm sick, I should have a big glass of orange juice. I remember when I went to the first class, it was an introductory class at Bastyr. I hadn't even decided I was going to go there, but a naturopathic doctor was doing a lecture, and he said, how many of you think that you should have a big glass of orange juice when you get a cold? And nearly everybody raised their hand, and he said that's one of the worst things you could do. Orange juice is rich in sugar, and you're sick already, and it's going to make you sicker. You should not have orange juice. Excuse me, you should not have something sweet. You should have something like ginger tea or have a dark green vegetable juice, have some vegetable soup, things like that, but not orange juice. You can have lemon, though. Lemon is very low in sugar and very rich in vitamin C. And I thought, what an eye-opener, you know?
Yeah.
We've been told so many things that aren't correct, and our society is kind of built itself on sweet things, even remedies for being sick, like having the cold or flu.
Wow, amazing. Again, we're speaking with Cherie Calbom. She is the author of The Juice Lady Sugar Knockout, and you can find out more information about Cherie and her other books at juiceladycherie.com. Now, one of the questions that your book, The Juice Lady Sugar Knockout, answers is, how does sugar make people fat if it has no fat?
Yeah, and that is such a great question because we have been told that it's fat that makes us fat all the time. And instead, sugar is really implicated in making people fat because your body is going to turn it to fat and store it directly in fat cells. And it is far worse than eating fat. The body will burn fat more even than it will burn the sugars. The body just loves to store those sugars in fat cells. So get the sugar out. So many people have found they just knock out the sugar, they start losing weight. That's all they did. I have got a sugar knockout group going right now, and they got the sugar out, and the weight just started melting away.
In your book, The Juice Lady Sugar Knockout, you have a 10-step sugar detox plan. Can you touch on a few of those parts of the 10 steps?
Oh, I'm so happy to. So there's some steps to get started, and then giving up sugar and going cold turkey is really, really important because here's the deal. If you just keep eating a little bit of sugar here and there, your body is addicted. It's just going to want more. It's like people who have an addiction to a drug, say cocaine or heroin. They know they can't just have a little bit of cocaine and try and kick the habit, you know. Mm-hmm. If they go to a detox center, they're going to say, no drugs in here. You can't have any. And that's what I found with the people that are truly addicted to sugar. You just can't have any. So for 30 days, it's like the ultimate palate cleanse. Let's just get all sweets out of your diet because anything sweet that goes on your tongue is going to trigger your brain, which is your pleasure center that wants more pleasure from that sugar, and you're just going to want to keep eating it. So that's step number one. And then caffeine. This is something I found very interesting, but caffeine can cause us to crave sweets. And so getting the caffeine either way down, way low, or out of our diet, at least for those first 30 days, can be very, very helpful and very, very important. So I always try to get people to get off the caffeine as well. And then we want to have some fat in our diet because fat, and the good fats, like I mentioned earlier, like avocados and olive oil and coconut oil and nuts and seeds, things that are going to give us satisfaction. They call it satiety when we eat. Very important to have that in our diet and to have enough protein as well, because if we are protein deficient, we will crave sweets. And so we want to have plenty of protein. And so I always caution people to have little protein snacks. Something in your briefcase, in your car, or in your purse, your desk at work. When you get a sugar attack, like have some seeds or nuts, something like that. Or maybe you have some turkey jerky, something that's portable and you can carry with you, because it's very important to balance your blood sugar, not let it dip too low. If it dips low, you tend to crave something sweet when actually you're really needing something that's more stabilizing, like some protein and fat, and also eating plenty of vegetables because of the good fiber and all the nutrients, and especially getting a lot of different vegetables that have plenty of chromium, a trace mineral in it. If we're chromium deficient, we will crave sweets. And then drinking plenty of water. They always say you may not be hungry, you might just be thirsty. And if we get dehydrated, one of the odd things, I call it the oddball response, is to crave something sweet. You're really actually just thirsty. So I tell everybody in my group, first thing you do is to have a glass of water when you think you're hungry for something sweet, and see if that craving doesn't go away. And then supplement your diet with things like vitamin C and chromium, GTF, which stands for glucose tolerance factor chromium, L-glutamine, the B vitamins, and zinc. All of those can make such a difference. And then sleeping well and sleeping enough. And here's another thing that Americans are just so short on. We don't get enough sleep. And if you don't get enough sleep, your appetite stimulating and appetite suppressing hormones get all out of whack, and you crave something sweet. So there it is in a nutshell. There's more, but those are some of the most important things and steps you can take in knocking that sugar craving right out of your life for good.
And as you said, there's more in your book, The Juice Lady Sugar Knockout, Cherie Calbom. And Cherie, before you go, I've been on your website, juiceladycherie.com. It is awesome. A lot of great information and a lot of great information about you specifically, but there's a lot of great stuff on there. But before you go, talk about your website. What can people find at juiceladycherie.com?
Yes, and if you forget how to spell Cherie, go to juiceladyinfo.com. It all goes to the same place. And come to my website and take the sugar addiction quiz. You'll have fun taking it, and it'll be interesting for you, and you can take a look at some of these other things I've got going on. I've got 30-day detox coming up starting this spring, and lots of information about juicing and overcoming those sugar cravings and addictions. So I welcome you to sign up for my newsletter. It comes out twice a week, and lots of tips, nutrition tips and recipes for you there.
Great. The author is Cherie Calbom. The book is The Juice Lady Sugar Knockout. The website is Juice Lady Cherie, and again, it's Cherie, Cherie, juiceladycherie.com. Cherie Calbom, thank you so much for being our guest this week.
Hey, thank you, Bruce. Have a lovely week, everyone.
And joining us this week is Lisa Morris. Lisa Morris is the co-founder and chairperson of the Christian Alliance for Indian Child Welfare. Morris holds a BA in Christian Ministries from Living Faith Bible College in Alberta, Canada, a diploma of Bible and Missions, and is a registered nurse. The Christian Alliance for Indian Child Welfare is the first national organization advocating for diverse families exploited by the unconstitutional overreach of tribal and federal government. She's the author of the new book, Dying in Indian Country, A Family Journey from Self-Destruction to Opposing Tribal Sovereignty, again by Lisa Morris. Congressman Kevin Cramer says about Dying in Indian Country by Lisa Morris, I encourage you to read this book. Search your heart and mind for how you will respond. Again, that was Congressman Kevin Cramer. Lisa Morris, welcome to the Bruce Collins Show.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Well, it's great to have you on. Now, if you could summarize the big picture idea of your book, why did you write this book, Dying in Indian Country?
There was so much that needs to be told. We have all kinds of propaganda, from Hollywood and everything else, Dances with Wolves and everything else. I grew up in the suburbs of Minneapolis, middle class. I would have to say that I believed a lot of that when I first got into a relationship with my husband. And so quite a bit of my life with him was an eye-opener as to what was really happening and how much people were really being hurt. So I felt like the only way to help other people to understand was to try to tell the story through our eyes and our ears, just to relate what we saw and what we heard and where we went from there.
Let's talk about Roland. How did you meet him?
I was working at a treatment center in Minneapolis, and he was one of the patients. I think I was fairly needy at the time. I mean, like I said, I was off track, and he was pretty much of a father figure to start with.
Now, can you talk about some of the issues that popped up in your relationship with Roland?
Alcoholism. He was in treatment for a reason, and for 2 years, initially in our relationship, he wasn't drinking, but then the drinking resumed and went through 10 years of some pretty bad stuff with my husband. After about 10 years and 2 children, I was prepared for a divorce. We did get married, and I was getting ready to divorce when he took a bus ride to Montana to where his Christian evangelical cousin was living and made a change in his life.
Mm-hmm. So I was going to ask you, at what point did Jesus appear in the lives of yourself and Roland? So it was your husband first that actually experienced Jesus Christ, and then how did that happen to you?
Well, he called me from there and said that he was changed and wanted to come back and get me and the kids and start a new life. And of course, I didn't believe it for a minute. His cousin's wife got on the phone and said that he really had changed, that she had witnessed him crying kneeling on the floor, crying and sobbing about, the way his life had gone, and she wanted me to believe it. I did not believe it. Of course, I didn't know anything about Jesus Christ, so, and having lived 10 years with his alcoholism, it was a pretty far stretch to believe. But I also knew that I was terribly unhappy in Minneapolis. I was a registered nurse at that point, and my son and my daughter, I wasn't able to see them very much because I was working the evening shift and living in a neighborhood I didn't like, and all of that. And so I thought, well, maybe it won't hurt to go to Montana. Maybe it will be a fresh start. I didn't intend to become a Christian and didn't intend to stop drinking myself. But once I was out there with Rowan's cousin and wife and other Christians, it took about a year before I finally came around and started to believe as Rowan did.
Yeah. Now, your husband was Chippewa, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Now, one thing, if you weren't here and I didn't have your knowledge to rely on, if I was doing an interview, I would probably say the term Native American out of respect. Is it okay to say Indian? I don't really know nowadays. Is it?
Rowan did not like the term Native American.
Really?
He said everybody born in America is Native American. He thought it was pretentious and whatever, just not right, not morally right.
Yeah.
To be separating people that way, to say, my ancestors were here first, so therefore I have one up on you, it just wasn't right to him. So he did not like that. He actually preferred to be called an Indian.
Interesting. Now, can you tell us about some of the things that Roland's family faced on the reservation?
Severe alcohol and drug abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. I chased a drunk off of a 10-year-old girl at one point. Suicides, lots of suicide. Self-destruction. And there was just such a helplessness and hopelessness. Teenage girl, niece hanging herself, and various other things. There was just such a helplessness, a feeling of being stuck and not being able to get out, not knowing how to get out.
Now, explain that. What is the hopelessness? Is it that they can't make their lives better? What is that feeling coming from?
I think that there's a trapped feeling. Mm-hmm. I don't think that everybody necessarily, and I'm not saying, this is definitely not no Native American can pull out, and no Native American, could, or Indian, or can do this or that. 75% of tribal members do not live in Indian country, according to the last 2 U.S. censuses. Many people have left because of the crime and corruption. Mm-hmm. So we don't want to get that, misunderstood. Many people have left. Many people who have left still do honor and respect the tribal government, but many people have left, and we know this from our organization, from the members of our organization, have left for the same reason that Rowan eventually left, and that was because of the crime and corruption. He did not want his children raised on that reservation, and so very purposely, he was 100% Native American, born and raised on Leech Lake, spoke Ojibwe until he started kindergarten. That was his primary language until he started kindergarten. Was raised with many of the traditions, but this was his choice as a man that was 100% heritage, that the reservation system was not what he wanted for his children and grandchildren, and it was not where he wanted them raised, and he did not think it was healthy or good for them. So that is why he purposely moved them away. And there's many, many people that feel the exact same way. So that has to be understood. What I believe has happened in the reservation system is it's kind of a catch-22, but the federal government has made it so that you set up this system, where only federal authorities can go in and make arrests. State police, county police, have to stop at the border for the most part. So it's become a safe haven for criminals, basically. In the 5-state area, Minnesota, Iowa, North, South Dakota, Wisconsin, there's a gang called the Indian Mafia, and we have relatives that are part of the gang, and they deal drugs on a lot of the reservations. So you have this element that's been moving in. So then you have people such as my husband and others that purposely move away, and not just the criminals, the drug dealers and that type of thing. A lot of the tribal governments themselves are so corrupt. Rowan's tribal government in the 1990s was convicted of ballot box stuffing and embezzlement. They were convicted in federal court and went to prison. One of the things that was found was like 100 absentee ballots supposedly from tribal members all across the country, were all signed by the same notary in Brainerd, and so it was that kind of thing. That was the kind of thing that was brought up in court. One woman said, I know that my brother didn't vote in that election because he was dead 6 months before the election. So you see this happening a lot, and the embezzlement. And so it's the crime and corruption that is rampant on many reservations that is the reason that a lot of people do not want their children there.
Yeah. Now,
this had been happening for decades, that people had been leaving, and we honestly believe the true purpose of the Indian Child Welfare Act has nothing to do with the best interests of children, and I think you can see that in the way many children have been treated that have made the news and that type of thing. We believe that the real reason for the Indian Child Welfare Act in 1978 was because people were taking their children and leaving their reservation, and this was a way to keep control of members and to keep the little kingdoms going.
Mm-hmm. When we place blame on this system that's in place right now, I know a lot of blame goes to the United States government, of course, and the politicians. But are there also people at the top of the Indian government itself that are kind of holding people down in concert with, United States government politicians?
Yes. Yeah, and that's why I mentioned that my husband's tribal government was convicted of embezzlement and ballot box stuffing as well. But we see this happening on a lot of different reservations. And, we all saw what happened with the little girl in California, the 6-year-old girl in California that was moved from the only home that she knew and placed with step relatives that were non-tribal. Obviously, there was nothing going on here that was in her best interest. They say now that she was placed with an infant sister, but when the case started, when the foster parents were trying to keep custody, there was no baby sister in the home. She's not that old. So that's all kind of twisted, but the point is, I think that what people see in that case and in the Veronica case is a lot of times ICWA is sold on that these are our children, and people have the impression that it's only referring to children that are raised on the reservation, and they keep saying all of their children are being stolen off the reservation when in fact more children leave with their parents and grandparents than are taken by any social services. So people have this impression that it had to do with keeping children on the reservation and that these really were the tribal government's children. First of all, I take exception to the idea that any children are owned by the tribal government. As I said, my husband was 100%. Our children are 50%. We do not believe, it doesn't matter what a person's heritage is, they should not be owned by the tribal government. That's just a matter of principle. But what I think upsets people when they see this happen with a girl that's 164th and everything is all of a sudden Americans realize, wait a minute, this can happen to a child of any heritage.
Yeah.
And this can happen in any community. And that's when people start getting upset. And in a big way, that's very, very wrong too. Because you have to consider that when people are only upset when they realize that it's any heritage or any community, then that in itself is, and I don't believe that people stop to think about it, but it's racist in itself.
Yeah.
Because, as I'm saying, my children would not want to be forced, into that situation. The fact is, people are individuals with their own goals, their own feelings. We have on our board of our organization a woman that was one of the first ICWA children back in the 70s and was born on the reservation. She fought to be able to stay off the reservation. She did not want to be there. The whole racism that's inherent in the Indian Child Welfare Act, where you've got people from the Casey Foundation and NARF and NICWA claiming that all children of even a tiny bit of heritage have to have this and have to have that and feel this way and think that way. How racist is that? Mm-hmm. That is so purely racist. I can't believe that anyone goes along with it. People are individuals. Children are individuals. Yeah. They aren't all cookie cutter the same. And it is just ridiculous that our government is allowing tribal governments to do this to our children.
Talk about the Indian Child Welfare Act, and then talk about what your organization, CICW, and you can be found at CICW.org, proposes should be done to combat the problem that children are facing on these reservations.
First of all, people should be, we are all U.S. citizens and should be allowed our constitutional rights. I'm very, very grateful for Goldwater Institute for the class action suit that they have right now, upholding the rights of all U.S. citizens. I never thought about ICWA at all until like 1994-95 when I saw a story in an Idaho paper about a 5-year-old boy whose non-native mother had placed him with a family in Idaho, and that child had lived there his whole life until he was 5 years old when a South Dakota tribe decided that they wanted to have custody of him. And it wasn't his father that was asking. It was an aunt, somebody the child had never met. And this child was on the verge of being torn from his home, a home that his mother had chosen, had specifically chosen. And it struck me with such pain because I had children about that age. And I thought if I had chosen a home for my children. If something were to happen to me, if I had cancer and I wanted to choose somebody from my church or that type of thing to raise my children, I should have the right to do that without a fear of a tribal government coming around behind me and usurping my authority and stealing my child. And so that's what first got me upset, and I wrote a letter to the editor in Idaho, and they printed it as a commentary, and we got a lot of feedback from that, positive feedback, because a lot of people were thinking and feeling the same thing. My husband felt the same way. And that's when we started talking about this and writing about this more, because we started to think about that. At this point, we had very, very good friends in our church, and we had decided how we wanted our children raised. Mm-hmm. We decided the worldview that we wanted our children to understand, and it wasn't the worldview that the tribal government was teaching. Now, we are their parents, not the tribal government. We are the ones that should be able to decide what worldview that they're raised in.
Yeah.
So that's where we first, and the more we talked about it and the more we wrote about it and we started a website, people started contacting us, and this really surprised us because we didn't jump into this thinking that anybody would respond. We were just trying to say how we felt. And they started telling us horrible stories about what was happening to their children or what happened to them, as ICWA children. And so that is basically how the organization started.
Now, before you go, tell us, though, what people can find on your website, CIWC.org. And again, that stands for the Christian Alliance for Indian Child Welfare. What can they find on this website, and how can they support your organization?
If somebody prays and they really feel like they want to donate something, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But I'm just content with, what we have. We don't have a lot. But I've been very, very content with just trusting God. When I go to D.C. to try to speak to congressmen and that type of thing, just trusting God the whole way, and have been very pleased with that adventure, with that opportunity to trust Him. And if somebody sends gas cards or whatever, I'm fine. I work out of my home. Stamps, envelopes, we're fine. I really, really need people to support Goldwater Institute and to contact their congressman. That would be the most helpful.
Okay. So Goldwater Institute is a website our listeners should visit, and also you can visit Lisa Morris at the Christian Alliance for Indian Child Welfare. That's CAICW.org. She's also author of the new book, Dying in Indian Country, A Family Journey from Self-Destruction to Opposing Tribal Sovereignty. Again, that's by Lisa Morris. You can check it out. You can go on Amazon. It's there. And this is a great book. And I know you will enjoy reading this book, and you'll be informed about what's going on at Indian reservations all across the United States. Lisa Morris, thank you so much for being our guest this week.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you once again for joining us here on the Bruce Collins Show, where we broadcast every Thursday night at 10 p.m. right here at WWPR 1490 AM. Remember, God loves you. We do too. Don't give up.